The following program is intended for a general audience and may not be suitable for younger children. Parental guidance is advised.
Hi, welcome to North of 48. It's April 13th with +4 Celsius up in the northern city in Canada. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm not bad. And it's nice and warm over here in the Ottawa Valley. It's 28 degrees today. First time I'm wearing shorts since probably September. So,
well, I'm down to one coat, so I guess that's progress.
you'll get there.
I will. You had an ice storm, eh? How did you make out?
Yeah, we had an ice storm last week, lost power. Yeah.
Right.
My weakling neighbors, I don't believe will ever make it through any post-apocalyptic situation of any kind. You know, after the first night of losing power, I go outside and everyone's running their bloody generators. But no.
Well,
I preferred the sound of everyone running their chainsaws for all the downed branches. That was a better sound than generators.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, no, sorry to hear that. That wasn't that late in the year for the ice storm, though? Or is that,
I want to say this is, it's I guess pretty late. Yeah, well, it's today's. I consider today the first day of spring. This is the first nice day. So,
but you're already up to 28, isn't that
up to 28 today? Yeah.
Is that not unusual?
I mean, it was below zero earlier in the week. So yeah,
right.
We got a couple one-off days going on with the nice weather. So
right,
take advantage of it.
Oh, good. Yeah. No, we were up to +17 or so on Sunday and then right back down to zero.
Nice.
So it's weird. So you and I are going to talk a little bit about foreign influence in Canadian politics.
That's right.
And disclaimer, not experts or anything. We're just a couple of lay people, couple of schmucks who get our news from the interweb and from word of mouth, right? So let's see if we can make heads or tails of this. I'm going to start us off with a video from a Liberal MP out of Scarborough, Jack McKay, who says the Chinese government represents an existential threat to Canada.
Mr. McKay, can you tell me what you think should be done about the questions being raised now about what the government knew about foreign interference?
Well, my views are that this is far larger. That Canada... The government of China is an existential threat to Canada on a multiplicity of levels, and we need to come to grips with that.
Is your government doing enough to deal with that, to confront it?
Well, it's not for me to say.
Well, you're a member of the governing caucus.
The caucus, right. But I think we need as a nation to come to grips with the desire of the government of China to turn us all into vassal states. And I don't think we have it.
So you think the public inquiry is warranted then?
No, I think we need to think our way through this very, very carefully.
Why? What's the risk of it?
Well, because it's an existential threat that we've never, ever faced before on a multiplicity of levels.
It sounds like you're saying it's more of a problem in terms of the election and the democratic process.
It's more than the election. It's at the universities, it's at the police stations, it's at the Confucius Institutes, it's at the exploitation of resources, I think it's far bigger.
Very soft-spoken individual. Were you able to hear any of that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right. So this is a fellow in the Liberal government who thinks this is an existential threat, and he wants to send a clear message to the community that they hear their concerns and they're for them. There's an RCMP probe on an investigation into this, and
into the Chinese police stations.
Yes, thank you very much.
I think those are both in Quebec, correct?
There's 100 such stations in more than 50 countries.
Well, the interesting thing about this, what's the name of the small Spanish NGO that broke that?
Safeguard Defenders.
Safeguard Defenders. Yeah,
Spanish civil rights group. Yeah.
It's run by an American and a Dutch national.
Okay.
They're these guys are kind of weird, in my opinion. If
Really?
you follow them on social media, you look into some of their backgrounds.
Okay.
The one guy, not Peter Darling. The other guy, what's his name? Not Peter Darling. I had it up. Michael Castor. Michael Castor is like this old progressive from the 90s. He says that like the WTO demonstrations back in 99, kind of like the one of the big precursor movements to like Occupy and things like that, right? Um he was a part of that. He says that the kind of direct democracy that he witnessed at the WTO protests in Seattle kind of influenced his decision to get into social sciences and stuff like that. So that's kind of, so he went to university, this thing, got into NGOs and got into stuff that way. And then it's weird for someone. I'm just gonna say it's weird for someone coming out of like the kind of WTO,
Right.
to then completely associate themselves with like UN politics and UN NGOs and stuff like that, and like globalization, right? So that's something that sticks out to me. I also used to work in I'm not sure if you knew, I used to work in internet marketing, specifically in SEO. That stands for search engine optimization. So I did a lot of work basically addressing and assessing
Right.
how reliable and how trustworthy websites are. That's a big thing that the company I work for focused on.
Yes.
Looking at the website for Safeguard Defenders, it is an incredible. It's not a trustworthy website.
Okay.
Right. They do have some trustworthy names that they can put up on the, so that there is a certain level of trust, but it's not giving me, if I just encounter this website, a level of trust that this is an organization I trust. It's shady. It's a shady organization. I understand for maybe security reasons that they have to be.
Right.
But we're kind of getting into a situation back with like the global news leaks where, yeah, of course, journalists can't give away their sources, and global news was not giving away their source inside CSIS, obviously. But these people have to defend their sources. They can't tell you who everyone is, but then that also creates trust issues, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I have some trust issues with this organization. And if you follow their tweets, they're really against any of these economic blocks that are really trying to form. Peter Darling, the Swedish national who founded this organization, is
Right.
incredibly against Macron, who is currently trying to create an economic bloc with the European Union. That's a big thing that he's pushing right now, and this is a huge week for that as well. I was tweeting about this earlier. You have Brazil, the Brazilian president Lula in Shanghai, meeting with the New Development Bank, which is in opposition to other banks like the World Bank and the WTO and stuff like that. These are organizations that will oppose each other, that have opposing mandates, right? So there's the big WTO conference, spring World Bank conference going on in DC this week. So neither Lula or his finance minister are there. And then you have Macron, who sent a finance minister there, who has said, yeah, we're more focused on a European bloc, and we want to maintain good relations with the US, but we don't want to have we
want to
don't
be independent,
controlled by either China or the United States. We want to be our own independent bloc. Right. So I think a lot of this is playing into the whole idea behind economic blocs as well, because Canada has had fairly excellent relationships with the Chinese government since the 70s. It was actually Pierre Elliott Trudeau in, I believe, 1970 that first established formal
diplomatic relations
with the PRC.
After Nixon. Yeah.
And then you had Mulroney government supporting those initiatives. We had Chrétien, everybody, and then we get to Harper. Harper, and this is where our relationship with China really changes, sorry, I'm going way
No,
path for what
great.
we're talking about Chinese police stations,
Right.
but
Oh, this is perfect.
but I think we need to kind of understand some of the history and the relationship with between Canada and China before we get into it. It's we really see the shift happen, I believe, during the Obama years, right?
Right.
It's after the financial crash, right, and where people are really just trying to get their
So
ducks in a row, and part of that is being anti-China, and that's coming. That's coming. The interesting thing,
yes.
this is some part of the anti-China thing is political interference coming from another source, which is the United States,
Mhm.
which we also have to realize that's big, and you have to realize that that happened in the Harper years.
Yes. No, I agree. Justin's relationship though with China's been mixed, right?
Yeah, it's been difficult, right? Because we
Right.
had the what's his name, Garrett, the missionary in 2016 that was held on espionage charges that to get rid of them. We had, the two Michaels, our two lovely, precious Michaels.
Yes, and they were
as
in
well.
jail
We've had
because we had their person in house arrest. So that's the difference
Yeah.
with China. These guys go to jail. I'm not sure they got tortured. I didn't read the interview on the two Michaels, but I don't think they were in as good accommodations as the Chinese lady who was
no, she was in house arrest, right? She was
right.
still doing her shopping on Amazon.
So you were talking about banks. Like, if you can't trust Credit Suisse or HSBC, who can you trust? I mean, aren't they?
Well, I mean, I'm talking more about like global banks and development banks and stuff like that. But
Right.
we were talking about Michael's. Yeah, there's the whole canola oil trade, which is basically in a version of the north south softwood lumber debate, but except it's east west with China.
Right.
So we have that kind of stuff going on. There was what else did we have? We had the stuff over the 5G tech from what's the Chinese company called?
Huawei or Huawei.
Huawei, yeah.
Huawei.
Yeah. So that would the lady under house arrest, yeah, she worked for that company. But yeah, no, so it's there's a lot going on here, right? And a lot of this really comes down to, in my opinion, economics. And okay, let's go back. Let's go back to the Chinese police stations.
We're going there. We're going there.
How we got here? Okay, because you mentioned, yeah, that NGO that listed the Chinese police stations in 100 different countries. They
Right.
said that there were Chinese police stations in Vancouver and Toronto.
Right.
RCMP starts looking into this. They can't find fuck all in Vancouver or Toronto.
Okay.
Right. What they do find is some stuff happening in Quebec. And they are still currently investigating that. And we don't know if these Chinese police stations are even real at this point, because we don't have anything to go on except this NGO.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, if you can't believe the internet, I mean, what's wrong with this world?
I mean, the RCMP has said, yes, they're aware that this could be an issue, and they're aware of different instances of Chinese interference. It's not, and they're aware of stuff they've heard from,
Right.
Chinese immigrants and Chinese Canadians.
Right.
But they can't
Prove
it, or there's no public. They haven't publicly put anything out, at least.
Okay. According to the RCMP report, there's a possible outpost in Montreal and another one in Brossard. Yeah. Suburb. I do know, because I'm out west, I hear a lot of stuff coming out of Vancouver.
Mhm.
And there's some people who have, and we'll get into it, who feel they've been coerced by agents of the Chinese government. So what's valid, what's not, I'm not sure. But let's go to the elephant in the room, if you don't mind. So gotta love Trudeau. So Trudeau's, how many scandals can you have in a government, right? It's not the it's the scandals that bring down a government. And what he's doing with his managing here, he's making it possible for the far right candidacies to come into government because of his lack of management skills on his own. So go ahead. You were going to say something?
I'm not really sure if this is even one of those. Like, the media has made it a scandal. The Conservative Party has made it a scandal. And just to be clear, I'm not a liberal voter. I've never voted liberal in my life, and
Right.
I'm no big fan of Trudeau.
Hey, I'm from Alberta.
I know. I'm from the liberal stronghold of Quebec, but but no, like it's there's I can't really see pinning anything on. They're talking about the Trudeau Foundation, which
Right.
everyone likes to forget is actually the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation, not the Justin Trudeau Foundation, right?
Very good.
This is a foundation founded by his father or in his father's memory, something like that.
Yes.
Justin Trudeau has nothing to do with it.
Right.
He has nothing to do with the foundation. He's
But he
completely
gets
hands
smeared
off
on him, right?
But you know, but some Chinese millionaire did donate, what is it, $140,000 in 2015 to the foundation, which
Right. So if for context, 140,000 donation to the Pierre Elliott Trudeau Foundation has not yet been returned because the charity has been unable to find anyone able to accept the payment. So Zhang Bin, a businessman later identified by the newspaper as being linked to the Chinese government, pledged in 2016 to donate 200,000 to the foundation that bears the name of Justin Trudeau's father. So apparently it was 140.
going back into the history of Canada-Chinese relations, it's not unheard of. Pierre Trudeau was the one who kind of started the Chinese and Canadian relations.
Well, yeah, no, that's true. Pascal Fournier said the foundation had reimbursed the full amount of the donation. So this is where the scandal comes from. A reimbursement check was issued in the name of the donor, which those payments and to which CRA charitable receipts were issued. Radio Canada confirmed Wednesday that the money has not been returned. This is where the scandal comes in. The refund check was issued, but it has yet to be cashed. Well, I guess if they issued it, because no one was able to accept the check on behalf of the corporation that they sent it back to. In its statement, the foundation also said it had only received $140,000 instead of the $200,000 contribution in the form of two $70,000 payments. Radio Canada sources say that while the donation was given to the foundation by two individuals, the checks were in the name of a corporation. You see where we're going with that? Yeah. So the foundation board is going to launch an independent review. It said the review would be conducted by an accounting firm overseen by a law firm, and that both firms would have no prior involvement with the foundation. This week, though, Fournier and the foundation's board of directors resigned en masse, saying in a statement that the controversy over the donation has put a great deal of pressure on the management and volunteer board of directors, as well as on staff and community. Like, this is what high profile,
a great
anything
deal of
with the
pressure.
Trudeau.
A great deal of pressure because, as you said, it is a volunteer board made up of likely fairly wealthy people.
Yeah, that's right. I want nothing to do with
business
this.
interests conflicting with this scandal or whatever that's going on right now, right?
Right.
So I think it's less of a moralistic or ethical consideration on their part, because these kinds of large donations from individuals or corporations or an NGO or something like it is fairly common. It's a common thing to happen. There's the Canadians who are giving money to company or foundations and stuff in different countries as well. There's Canadians that are giving money to foundations and NGOs in China. This is part of the thing of about having relations with other
countries
internationally, is as McKay said, they're in the universities and stuff. It's like, yes, because we've integrated our economies and stuff.
I like your viewpoint.
There was people going crazy about Chinese workers working in Canadian biomedical labs. It's like, yes, Chinese people can get work visas in Canada, and they have good expertise in other areas too, not just making iPhones. And so some of the framing of this issue where people are making China out to be this big enemy, and I don't know what people want the government of Canada to do. Our economies rely on each other,
right?
Like the
no,
I cut off the diplomatic and economic relations with China. It would be absolute that's an existential threat to Canada.
That's true. There was scandals though, like NGOs were giving money to other NGOs who were giving money to other NGOs, kind of like a payback scheme. So you have to keep on to that. So anyways, the controversy followed Mr. Trudeau while he was visiting in Winnipeg. And I have a video, Dave.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's see what Mr. Trudeau is going to say about this.
As you well know, the Trudeau Foundation is a foundation with which I have absolutely no intersection. It was established to promote knowledge and academic research into the humanities following the death of my father, and has had an extraordinary impact on academic institutions and on brilliant Canadians. It is a shame to see the level of toxicity and political polarization that is going on in our country these days, but I am certain that the Trudeau Foundation will be able to continue to ensure that research into the social studies and humanities at the highest levels across Canadian academic institutions continues for many years to come.
Okay, I'm starting to get some sympathy here, and I hate that.
I hate being sympathetic towards Trudeau. I really do. There's forces though that force me into that corner, and I hate it.
Well, you're coming from a point. What is the truth, right? And I really appreciate that as well. Would you like to hear what the opposition leader says about this?
Oh, he's one of my favorite guys just because he's so funny. He's so funny. Not like how a comedian is funny, but like how maybe like a guy falling on the street in a funny way is funny, That's the
he kind of shoots himself in his foot sometimes.
I wish he would actually do that.
Okay, here we go.
I just would reiterate that given all of the serious allegations of foreign interference and the public's confusion around what's going on, it really highlights the importance of having a public inquiry to have an airing of what's going on so Canadians know that these are the facts and these are the steps being taken to protect our democracy. It is not something that should be used as an opportunity to score points. There are many other areas where we're going to have serious disagreements. I disagree with the Prime Minister on the importance of getting rid of for-profit healthcare in our healthcare system. That's a major disagreement. I'm going to fight him on that. But when it comes to protecting our democracy, this is where all parliamentarians need to come together to find solutions and not use this as an opportunity to score points. This should be about how do we safeguard our democracy, and that's not what I'm seeing from the Conservatives and the Liberals in committee. It's been a game for them, and that's why I've been saying that the real solution here is a public inquiry.
I thought you were going to put on something from the other guy. That's...
Oh, no.
I thought you were playing something from Pierre. That's why I didn't have so many kind words. But no,
okay.
I think that was fairly.
Yeah, you were rough on Singh there. You should retract.
Yeah, that was meant for Pierre.
Okay, all right.
Meant for Pierre. That was not about Singh. I thought you were going to play me something from Pierre.
Oh, okay. No, that's fair. That's fair. But so we have the NDP backing Trudeau on this too. So they're kind of coming from the same viewpoint you are, right?
I mean, putting on like my small L liberal hat, right? Just like you're trying to maintain like a liberal democracy. A G20
progressive.
Country.
I prefer the term progressive democracy.
But you have to manage a whole bunch of different trade partners. You're gonna have to manage a lot of different geopolitical pressures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's the thing that's really coming down to, we need better internet security. You just need maybe put more money into intelligence or something. But because like I said, you aren't going to be able to cut off diplomatic and economic ties with China and stuff like that. You're not going to be able to cut off economic and political ties with all of the BRICS countries, right?
Right.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
So the only thing you can do is get better with your own security. But yeah, no,
that's true.
It's worrisome because it's also painting Chinese Canadians as an enemy at times. But that's something that's really happening on the right, which I think is one of the really worrying consequences coming out of this.
Right. But it's also from the background of it, because there is dark money from foreign influencers in Canada. And
not just China, though.
Yeah, no, China, India as well. I know a dairy
would actually be the biggest one.
Yeah, Dairy Queen manager from the south of India, where most of the dark money, don't sue me, he's told me, comes from. And he says, and this is an immigrant from India, and he says, yes, they come in with dark money. They buy things up, and and then we have the family repatriation program here in Canada, and that happens. And I have a story out of Vancouver on that too, but we need to take a pause. So we'll be right back with part 2 with Davey Mammal and China in Your Hands. Yeah. Hi, and we're back with Dave. We're talking about Chinese influence in Canadian politics and foreign influence in Canadian politics. There's a story out of Vancouver, Dave, where and this is like in Toronto too as well, but there's a Chinese billionaire owns a mansion. It's not been lived in for a couple of years. The homeless are now camping on the property.
Yeah.
Which I kind of don't have a problem with if it's not being used.
I think we should just take every billionaire's property and give it to people. So yeah, I'm there with you on that. Yeah.
And it's probably a big property. I don't have the details on it, but
Vancouver, maybe not.
Yeah, well, this is true.
It might just be like what is otherwise like a regular suburban lot in Etobicoke or something like that. Like
maybe, yeah, that's true. However, I'm sure the neighbors will complain, and unfortunately, in society, the more money you got, the more clout you have with the city mayor and
that's true.
and stuff. But so the mayor of Vancouver, Ken Sim, sorry, who beat the incumbent in the last mayoral election in Vancouver. So his campaign received donations from past, present, and future leaders of an organization that describes itself as an ally of China's government. So Elections BC disclosures show $1,500 from a South Surrey resident who was executive chair of the Canadian Alliance of Chinese Associations. And another one donated $1,250. So Sim lost the vote to the incumbent by 957 votes prior. But last October 15th, he won by a 36,000 vote, and his ABC party took super majorities on city council and board in Vancouver. And he had launched his campaign in October of 2021. Wow. And People's Republic of China consular officials were attending an event promoting the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics. So going with your previous thesis, this could be much ado about nothing. It's just business.
Yeah.
However, he's being slammed that he had Chinese money come in, and he won the election. Ken, the mayor, says that he is in no way beholden to the Chinese government, and that he won it fair and square.
Like I think that's the thing that we have to realize about this is that, you know, it's not necessarily Chinese influence isn't necessarily going to be them outright being like, oh, you have to do what you are now an agent of the Chinese government, and you have to
Right.
do what the Chinese government says, and you have like a Chinese secret agent handler and stuff like that who's feeding you information with a burner phone and stuff like that. That's not what's happening in these situations. There's maybe someone from China,
Well,
the party who's saying, hey, yeah, no, there's some property investments, and it's probably not even coming down from the top of the party. This is probably not something that's even organized. If it is, that's like a policy of Xi Jinping, right?
Mhm.
This isn't like some policy that the Chinese it's like party members who are also business owners that probably are probably doing stuff with money.
Mhm.
Like these guys are like oligarchs basically, right?
Oh yeah,
They're doing
they
stuff
are.
with money
Right.
to benefit them. So if someone's receiving money in Vancouver from someone that's connected to the Communist Party
Mhm.
of China, then that guy probably has like business investments and property investments in Vancouver, and is probably going to try and give money to a guy that's going to do better things for his business and
Right.
property investments. So this is interference from coming from Chinese nationals, from people who are associated with the Chinese Communist Party, but things like that I don't see as necessarily. Yes, it's political interference, but it's not like they're trying to. That's not a guy that's trying to like, you know, do like some weird kind of political revolution in Canada to
Right.
make it more Chinese friendly, because Canada already is.
But the Silk Road Initiative does prove the Chinese government will put money into countries,
Oh,
buy
absolutely.
things, and to try
Yeah,
to.
so do we.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I'm not saying we don't.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah.
have as much money
No.
as China to do this, and
No.
so okay. There's no denying that we have foreign investors buying up property in Canada, and the Liberal government came out with a plan to stop that. And then they switched the plan and said, well, you can, as long as it's, I think, one property or something like that. I should have it, but I don't off the top of my head.
The BC government.
No,
Right?
feds,
That was a
federals,
feds. Okay.
right? And so there's no denying the Russian money that went into London and to New York and into Vietnam. Black money coming out of India.
Yeah.
You know, and then for sure there's money coming out of China.
Yeah.
Dark money as well. And so as a country, should we be our own country, or we're part of the world and that ship has sailed?
What do you, who
Why?
who owns most of the media that's on our television, right? Who
Right. Well,
like
yeah, it's all a conglomerate. What, two or three
well,
broadcasters?
well, and a lot and most and so much of what we have on TV is American content,
Right.
right? Our media landscape is completely owned by the Americans, and yes, and a lot of our business infrastructure is completely owned by Americans and stuff like
Right.
that. And so we're seeing this to a lower extent with countries like Russia and China and India, who also want to have influence in this country, and you know, who do have fairly large expat populations as well. So of course, there's it makes it easier for those business interests.
Right.
So it's a difficult situation. Like we have to go back to thinking about this in as economic blocks. If we're talking about getting rid of all foreign interference
Mhm.
in Canada, that means completely changing, getting rid of a lot of the American ownership in our country as well, which is not going to happen.
No,
And
that won't
so
happen.
so we really have to frame this. You know,
Well, they're
this
thinking
has to
about
be, it's being framed in a very polite way at
right.
the moment, right? And people aren't really being honest with their words. This isn't about foreign blanket foreign interference that happens. We know the United States is spying us. We know the United States is spying on Germany. They bugged Angela
Yeah.
Merkel's phone.
Yeah.
It came out they've been spying on the South Koreans. They're doing the same fucking shit to us,
Right.
right? And they're
Oh,
doing
yeah,
it
for
worse
sure.
to the Chinese. They're doing it worse than the Russians, and they're doing it worse than the Indians, right? So
But
if we
Dave,
really want,
we're America's friends.
we are such good friends.
You
I
know,
love them.
they come over and have a beer with us once in a while.
They do.
So,
They do.
you
They
know.
do. And they
Now,
complain about the
the-
beer prices.
Yeah, but if you want to get good beer, you got to come to Canada. So I'm
Nah.
just saying to our American viewers, just
Yeah,
saying.
but we have to frame this within the context of a new Cold War, though, right?
Right.
And because that's what it is. This the ramping up of tensions between NATO countries and Russia, quite obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot to do with Russia's fault. And then Russia's
Yeah.
been
They've been
screwing around with
behaving badly,
espionage
Dave.
and stuff before that.
Yeah.
We were government agency or government departments in Canada are fairly used to having cyber attacks that originate from
Yeah.
Russia or
Yeah.
China.
For sure.
Pardon me.
And
But,
India, I get that call every once in a while. Hi, you've won a vacation. Please give us
Yeah.
your credit card
Oh,
number.
yeah. They took all my grandma's money. It was very sad.
Yeah.
Not even kidding. Like drained her of, like, she had like a partner that drained her of all her retirement savings, and then everything that was left got taken
Oh
by
my gosh.
telephone scammers. So
Was she able to recover?
she had her pension.
Yeah.
So she had that, but all her savings gone,
Right.
basically.
Well,
Yeah.
I am very sorry to hear that. And it's
Yeah, well,
not the first time I've heard that.
She's dead now. She's fine.
Oh, okay. Can't get my money no more, boys.
I wasn't expecting an inheritance. So.
Yeah. Jeez. So the federal government's toying with, one of the Liberal MPs is toying with the federal agent program, and people started saying, well, that's like Russia's, and then every YouTuber who's from another country will have to go onto the registry. And but it's not like that. He said, I think we can figure it out where we can tag foreign agents in this country so we can keep an eye on them. And I'm sure CSIS would be willing to have that registry as well. So
They love it. They probably already have it.
Yeah, I don't doubt that as well. So where was I going with my next question was, there's no denying it, but with the COVID, what we went through with COVID showed that our supply chain and production facilities and manufacturing facilities in this country are non-existent sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially like masks. We couldn't even make our own masks.
Yeah.
And then China had them, and we tried to buy them and they wouldn't give them to us. I think I mentioned before that Alberta's still waiting for a couple of $1 million worth of children's medication to come in, and you still can't buy Neocitrin in some of the pharmacies here.
Yeah, I know it was a scary winter with having 3 little guys that get sick fairly often.
Yes.
Making sure I could get my hands on Tylenol. Yeah.
Right. So, and Britain too is facing where the Americans are coming in there with American style healthcare, best in the world.
Oh, it's happening here too. Yeah.
And here, yes, we're in Alberta. Daniel Smith is really making the rounds on Medicare, and I have to say our 2 programs on Medicare, I got a lot of good questions and comments on that, Dave. So I think we should
Oh, that's good.
set one up for the future.
Yeah, right on.
But Danielle Smith is really, yeah, she's really putting the boots to the Medicare system here in Alberta.
God.
And so with all the foreign interference, is it foreign interference? Like, so we can have American oligarchs running us, or we can have Canadian oligarchs running us, right? Which is,
I think that's what they want. They're saying we need Canadian oligarchs.
that's
This is
right.
all these oligarchs from other countries that are ruining Canada.
All our oligarchs would be nicer, I
mean,
think,
we have
because
some.
Mr. Weston, Galen, I don't
Galen,
think
yeah.
so. I mean, Loblaws is a really. Oh, he gave himself a raise too.
3 million.
Yes, he did, and from the shareholders, he said gave it to him. Trouble is, his family is 60% shareholders, so we have that. So you think we beat this issue to death, or is there anything else you want to talk on this?
God. Oh.
I mean, it is such so. As a person, you hear all these stories, and then you hear the political spin. It is hard to parse what is true and what is not, right?
Well, actually, one thing I did want to bring up, because we didn't talk too much about CSIS.
Yes,
CSIS,
let's
which
talk
is like
about CSIS.
Canada spy agency, right?
Yeah, best in the world. Best in the world.
So there's this great. I sent you an article. There's this great article from Spring Mag, which is a Canadian socialist magazine.
Yeah.
That put out an article about the history of CSIS.
Mhm.
They're pretty sketchy. They've done some sketchy things in the past.
They have, but they've reformed.
And CSIS has a lot of existing problems as well. They've basically I'll post a link to the article, but like
I was reading it. They did bring out the corruption in the RCMP, though.
They did bring out the corruption in the RCMP, but they do have a history of supporting far right movements like the Nationalist Party of Canada, getting people into the party and basically just like funding like far right wing activities and then doing nothing about the far right.
Are you saying they're like the FBI or CIA
Absolutely.
helping people to bomb things and then or to plan bombing and then arrest them?
Where did they get those ideas from? That's some political interference right there.
America, ideas for the world.
It's fairly obvious if you read about CSIS that they are that there are elements of the agency that are captured by the far right, without even talking about the fascist Nationalist Party of Canada, who now is actually getting back into the news because they're out protesting drag shows.
What happened to as Canadians live and let live, right? We're really getting into is it spilling up from the borders from Fox News?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's where it's all coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to the convoy. So much of the messaging was American in nature. We can talk about how much American money came in as well from wealthy business individuals and different types of influencers.
Right.
Even like Tucker Carlson talking positive about the convoy, saying donate, donate, donate. Right.
Right. Yeah. And then calling the Liberals. What was he calling it? Oh, you need a revolution against your government, Canada.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, there were people within the convoy movement that were actively calling for a coup, right? So,
yes. No, I agree.
So speaking about the convoy here.
Oh, please. I hope you have another one. We're due. Yes, please.
They were saying, hey, we got people that are like former military, former CSIS, active military, active CSIS who are helping us out.
They had tactical people.
There's claims that they talk to people within CSIS who are helping them sort stuff out. And this is in common. I live in Ottawa, so this is where or I live in the Ottawa area. I'm technically in Quebec.
Yeah.
It's like a New York City, New Jersey kind of relationship, right?
New Jersey.
So there are people like I've heard stories about people being reached out to, like, hey man, I'm down to the convoy, like I know you used to work for the government for this department. Can you help me get some information or contact information? It's like, Jesus,
Right.
contacting active public servants, and some active public servants help them. Some active CSIS people help them. Some active military people help them.
Mhm.
Right. It's insane. So we have a CSIS that's been doing this kind of thing. And then we get the Handong leak, which is the Liberal MP who is said to have ties to the Chinese Communist Party and stuff, and was feeding them information and trying to delay the release of the two Michaels, so it'd be a better political situation for the
Yes,
Trudeau Liberals.
thank you so much for bringing that up. Was that true?
That's what's really set this all up. Well, the thing
Right.
is, they apparently had a leaker from CSIS that was feeding them this information
Mhm.
and fed them a bunch of documents. But then this Liberal MP who resigned from the Liberal Party, but is still a sitting MP,
Mhm.
turned around and sued the news organization that released this information.
Okay.
And they very quickly walked the story back because they couldn't prove anything.
Really?
And they were also refused to say who their source was, obviously, right?
Mhm.
So we have a situation where this guy has now been accused of being a spy. It set off this whole scandal. Meanwhile, the story's being walked back. So now we're bringing up stuff again about, well, and you and I did. I brought this stuff up too. The Chinese police stations, the Huawei stuff, our two beautiful, lovely Michaels that we must protect at all costs, and
Right.
other things like that.
According to the story that you posted, Chinese interference in Canadian elections, CSIS agents are the unnamed sources that make up the global news story on that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
but I think the point that I wanted to make by connecting those two is that there is a far right element
yes,
that exists within CSIS. You can look at this. There's people who have. I remember a story coming out a year or two back. People were resigning from CSIS because they couldn't deal with the racism. These were people who were like visible minorities or gay or something like this. And
I think the RCMP also had that. Any paramilitary organization has that.
How bad is it when you're like your top spy service can't retain people because of racism? That's messed up.
That's pretty bad.
That's bad. So my thought, and we've had all these like people who were helping during the convoy. This guy who's leaking and hates Trudeau, is trying to make a problem for the Trudeau government. Release some stuff. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's out of context. Right? Maybe it's out of context. And is doing stuff to make Trudeau look bad. And that's one theory. I can't prove it. That's just like my tinfoil hat thing, but like no one knows what's going on in this situation.
I appreciate your view on this because your view should be heard more on this. You've obviously thought it out a bit, you know, with your tinfoil hat, and I appreciate that. So
I want to know more. I wish I had like an exact answer for what's going on,
right?
And what's really happening here, but
so wasn't that a thing? If you were in the RCMP or in CSIS or in the army, you weren't allowed to have political views publicly, right? And especially if you acted on it, like with the convoy and feed information, you should be routed out of the service. But with the racism maybe inside the service, they protect that fellow.
Absolutely.
You know,
and in some cases, yeah.
Yeah, we need to clean that out. Like I'd rather be more proud of the RCMP than disappointed, right? They're a necessary, some people would say evil or force or security service in this country.
It's something that you're going to have no matter what, you know.
Yeah.
As long as you have like governments as they are organized now globally and stuff, like you're going to need to have some sort of like national security agencies and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you want to be able to trust them, right? Because I grew up in an era where we have all these TV shows, black and white when it started, and chatting up the RCMP and stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
I remember when there wasn't a CSIS. Can I ask you about so in Edmonton we've had a couple, and Calgary we've had a couple events, and I know Toronto, about LRT Usually against a foreign person, either stabbings or in Calgary, it's women, Canadian or not. And what are your thoughts about that? Because that's really weird. Are we?
Immigrants?
It's
doing
really
crimes?
weird that people would be so aggressive on a train platform or a bus terminal.
It's that's a big issue in Toronto. And this is
Why
an
though?
issue. This is an issue that you're going to face anywhere with any large city that has public transit, right?
Right, but have you heard it this bad before though? I know we weren't going to talk about this. I'm
no,
just curious.
but
Yeah,
I have some theories of why it might be worse now. We're the economy is bad for normal working people, right?
yeah.
I'm normally a fairly comfortable middle class person. I'm not rich,
Right.
but I
Join the club.
We, my wife and I have a mortgage on our house and stuff, and we got a couple cars that we're still paying off and stuff too.
Mhm.
But it's stuff has gotten significantly harder, and if you're not if you're not a middle class person,
Right.
like me, and things are a little bit harder for you, like it's tough.
So
It's
are you
tough.
thinking that middle class dream is probably
The middle class
gone
dream is gone, but like it's harder
for everybody, even Americans and
for poor
Britons?
people. If you're poor, you're going to struggle a lot more with like mental health issues. You're more likely to struggle with like addiction issues.
Right.
You're more likely to deal with like a million other like fucking bullshit things that like
Right.
maybe not everyone in the middle class or upper classes has to deal with, right?
Right.
And as
Very
that
good
gets
point.
exacerbated, everyone else in society has way more anxiety right now because of how the economy is going. Yeah,
Mhm.
of course you're going to get conflicts, especially when you're packing people into tight little tubes, right?
Yeah, well, that's so we had 1 million immigrants come into the country last year. I'm not sure we have the housing for them, my friend. And I see it on the streets, and I see all these apartments going up, these towers that they showed in Chicago. Sorry, anything over 4 or 5 floors will become drug dens or gang affiliated down the road, right? And we're building these huge apartment complexes.
And what else can you do? Like
Yes.
that's part of the thing with the especially as cities grow, like you're gonna need tons. Like look at New York City, right?
We have land
Look at
here.
us.
I'm out in the West. We have a lot of land. You could
Yeah, we
build
got a lot
2
of
or
land out
3
here too,
story apartments all over the place, like in
Mhm.
Denmark. So, right.
I mean, yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, yeah, I know I do live in a house, but an ideal situation, in my opinion, would honestly be to build more apartment buildings.
Mhm.
It's
I would like family housing myself, affordable, but even across from me, they put up a skinny house where an older person can't go into it because it's like 3 floors on their skinny house, right? And they said, "Oh, this is for the economically disadvantaged. That's why we're putting 2 houses in one lot." But then they're putting it at 470,000 a piece, which is more than my little house. Sad to say, but so if you're working at Tim Hortons, you're not going to be able to afford that house.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. And the reason I just want to go back quickly and say the reason why I do say apartments are essential and stuff like that compared to single family homes,
right,
is climate change is going to screw us otherwise.
Yes.
We do have to change the way we live, and the whole idea of single family homes it's not sustainable.
Well, you can have a garden, Dave.
I know, but it takes up way more space, and then you need way more cars, and
maybe
your public transportation situation gets a lot more trickier as you get these like labyrinth like suburbs that start to emerge and stuff, and you're gonna have to have like a lot more gas stations here and there. You're gonna need to have like stuff more spread out, whereas if you have everyone in apartment buildings, you can have stuff a lot more centralized. right?
Yes,
Which
yes,
makes things a lot more walkable, which means makes it easier to deliver services to people and stuff like that. Like think about during COVID, you know, people would there would pop-up clinics and stuff happening in people's apartment buildings, which is a
right.
lot easier than if you lived in the suburbs and you had to drive somewhere and then wait in the line.
Well, that's true, but also the houses are becoming the square footage on them. Like the post-war houses were 800 to 1,200 square feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that would be comfortable for a family of 5, apparently. And these 3,000 square foot homes with all the bells and whistles, and I think maybe that's the problem.
Maybe.
You know, I'm not sure on this, but
Yeah, housing is a really difficult issue.
it's a
Right,
very
'cause
big issue. Yes,
You like
I won't.
a lot of people like, you know, housing is like an investment.
Mhm.
For other people's is a business. You know, you get the people who are like working like real estate or selling properties and stuff. So there's so many stakeholders that is so hard to have like any meaningful change.
Right,
Uh,
right. Well, we diverged from the LRT incidents, but that's good. But so the incidents up here happen to be young people,
Yeah.
early 20s, and teenagers who were doing that. Especially Toronto, they had that
yeah,
gang of girls
yeah.
beat up on a guy, Asian fellow, and took his liquor. Right? Didn't he have a bottle?
Oh yeah. I
Do you
thought that was in
remember?
Ottawa? I thought that was in Ottawa first. I think they just
Oh, maybe.
I don't the story I heard they just killed him. That's it.
Yeah.
Like it
No,
was like maybe an argument or something, or they did it for fun, but they just beat up this dude. Yeah,
that's
they
right.
killed him.
And we had an incident up here where there was a gang of girls beat up on another girl some years back, and just for fun. So there's something in society. If you got both parents working, or if you have one parent working and you can't raise your children, and we don't have the services in society to raise the kids, right? Like we used to have, when I was growing up, we had teen club and all that, and you play ping pong after school, that sort of thing, and sports. And so we're losing some of our essence, and we have to figure that out.
Why? And going back to that, there's no funding for any of that, right?
There is not.
Like,
No,
the schools can't run after school programs anymore because
they've
no
taken
money.
gym away out of some classes. So
Absolutely, yeah, no, it's ridiculous. You know, like we look at like how we've let's go talk about buildings and like building houses and stuff. Like look at what our suburbs look like, right?
Oh yeah,
they're disgusting. It's like concrete and then nothing else, right?
Right.
Like depending on the suburb you live in as a kid, like where are you gonna go?
Yeah, no, this is true.
You can't go hang out you can't even go hang out at the mall anymore, right? There's no arcade to go hang out in. You know, you can get yelled at for being in a park and being a teenager, right?
Yes.
God forbid you're like a black or brown teenager that's like being loud in a park, right?
Right. No, well, no, that's true. The integration, we're having trouble with integration of immigrants into Canadian society. And I think the government can do a better job, but also cities, municipal, local governments could do a better job.
If these kids that are immigrating to Canada aren't taking the same swimming lessons as born in Canada Canadians,
you're right.
Like if they're not on the same baseball teams and same soccer teams, or whatever, because there's no funding there for that, it's not going to happen, right?
Yes.
Like
no, I agree.
If we're taking money out of our communities, there's no way that people are going to be able to integrate into communities, and there's no way that communities are going to be able to grow and build themselves, right? No one knows their neighbors anymore for this exact same reason, right?
That is very true. Especially on my block, I've got a lot of people who have aged out, and then other people have bought it, and there's some rental properties now. And you know, I used to be a renter. We took care of our place, but there's some renters who don't take care of their place. They just, you know, they're hard to get to know or want to know.
You look how they build suburbs these days. Most suburban neighborhoods don't even have a sidewalk anymore.
Yes,
right?
no, that's
How am I
that's
supposed to
true.
walk around and meet my neighbors if there's no sidewalk?
Yeah,
Right.
I hear what happened to these moving sidewalks, all electric future and
Oh, like the
trolley cars
Jetsons?
and
Yeah.
oh, we used to have trolley cars, but Edmonton pulled all the tracks out because the councillor said we're going with gas buses. This is
They-
back in the 80s, and now look at where we are.
They had them in Winnipeg, but it was actually the general strike. You know, there's this famous, they tip it over.
Right.
They had them after that, but they iconic
Right.
image. But
And as
we
far
used to
as
have them in Ottawa. They still
Yeah.
have them in Toronto, I think, at least.
and they were
but-
good, you know. And as far
Fantastic.
as malls go, now it's all big block stores surrounded by other stores,
Mhm.
and we still have some malls here. World's biggest, apparently. No, I think that's Dubai now, but North America's biggest mall. We still have. They took out
Yeah.
the SeaWorld though,
Oh well.
and yeah, and Galaxyland. Oh well.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
my favorite thing as a teenager. It was just like this dirty
Yes.
punk that like hung out at the mall because that's where like everyone would just meet up at the mall and then
Right.
just go wander around, go to the food court,
Mhm.
go hang out downtown and stuff. Man, like that was the best.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that, and the library, believe it or not.
Oh yeah.
We used to go to as well. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap this up, or
There's a lot of things I
wanted?
say. There's
So
a lot of choice words I have for certain people. But
we need to have another conversation, and soon then.
absolutely, whatever you want, just let me know.
All right, Dave, thank you so much for being on North of 48. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime, my friend. And thank you guys for watching. Take